Good afternoon, everyone. I am Precious Norman-Walton. So just for introduction purposes, I am the Chief Operating Officer of Diamond National Insurance Advisors. We are a commercial insurance brokerage here in the Las Colinas, Irving area. Aside from that, as if that wasn't enough to do in a day, I'm also the incoming chapter president for the Dallas CPCU Society. So that is my credentialing statement, and my presentation to you today is really to begin a conversation regarding diversity and inclusion, especially in the industry that we serve. So I was thrilled when I received the confirmation that I'd be able to share this information with you today. And I did a lot of thinking about what can I share with you about this? How can I invite you into a conversation and kind of just, again, the dialogue, because there's a lot to be said still in this space. So in part of my preparing for today, I'm very fortunate that I have a very extensive network, and I was able to connect with some of the thought leaders, the best and the brightest, those that have tons more experience than I, those that have tons more research than I, and really ask them, where are we today? How far have we come? How far yet do we still have to go? So in having these conversations, I am very pleased, even as I look into this room, to see the increase in the participation of individuals of color, of women involved, especially with the amount of course, with us being at the Gamma gathering, the amount of youth that are getting into this industry and seeing this as a viable and necessary part of really what makes commerce possible, right? So, Bill says, of course, we're here to protect individuals and families, but what I found specifically engaging and intriguing about what we're able to do is that by virtue of transference of risk, entrepreneurs are able to pursue their dreams. Larger companies are able to conduct business. We are really the heartbeat of what makes all of the other industries that we touch possible. So you're in a great place. This is a great time to be here. So in addition to all the research that I've done, sitting down with individuals and having these conversations, I kind of had to ask myself a little bit about how I felt about where we were in the standpoint of diversity and inclusion. So to kind of ask that question, I had to start with, what do I know? What has my experience been with diversity and inclusion? So as the middle-born child of a United States Air Force veteran and the middle-born child of a mother who was born in Thailand, my entire life has been diversity and inclusion. By virtue of the military, I've had the extreme pleasure of being able to serve along with my father. I've had the pleasure of living in some pretty exotic locations. I spent some years in the Philippines, spent the majority of my childhood in Hawaii. So I grew up immersed in this military environment where it wasn't uncommon to have teachers, colleagues, friends, neighbors from all reaches across the globe. So in my sophomore year of high school, my father retired after 25 years of service and retired in Shreveport, Louisiana. So for those of you who are not familiar with Shreveport, Louisiana, diversity is still something we're working on there as well. People really didn't know kind of how to put our family in a context that they understood. So I spent a lot of space and a lot of headspace and energy trying to explain to people what I was. So fast forward, entering into the workforce, one of the things that I noticed, I began my career in a local agency in Shreveport, Louisiana, many years ago. My family and I moved here to the Dallas area in 2012, and I went to go work for, as many people do, a large claims call center. So in this call center space, I kind of observed something that was really interesting to me. What I noticed is with these entry-level positions, with these jobs, when they were hiring in mass waves, that there was a lot of diversity present. There were a lot of people of color, there were a lot of women, there were a lot of people of multiple ages, sexual orientation, military status, various disabilities. It was a large net was cast. But as I had the fortune of kind of climbing the promotions, moving to other companies, kind of moving into the various places, especially entering into the executive space, what I noticed was kind of a pyramid effect. And the higher I ascended, the room changed. Okay. My question was, how is that possible? Shouldn't this be a direct reflection of the base? Because if those of us in the industry are kind of where the talent pool is, why is it that as I began to rise in my career, that I started to become either the first or the only in several different categories? So that's when I made a conscious decision that in order for me to continue to rise, I needed to figure out how I could separate myself from everyone else. And I've had the great fortune, and again, shameless plug, I decided to invest in myself. So as I thought about what I could share with you, to again, invite you into a conversation that's still ongoing, because of where we are, I decided a little alliteration would be fun. So my letters for you, my takeaways for you are G-I-S. So the G, get yourself a mentor. Mentorship relationships are interesting. There are formal mentors, there are informal mentors. In this day and age, it could just be someone that you've seen and that you follow, someone that it doesn't matter if you've connected personally in person or via LinkedIn, social media, or otherwise, but it was really important to me to be able to find someone in this really big space that I related to, someone who was willing to be vulnerable and share a story with me and to encourage me along my path. So in my career, while I was still in the call center, my mentor encouraged me to begin my CPCU journey. So that's something, if you already have a mentorship relationship, I would encourage that you do so today. So I alluded to it a moment ago, is simply invest in yourself. There are going to be plenty of opportunities as you move forward in your career where there are prerequisites to get where you are, that you hold a specific degree, that you have a specific license, that there's sort of ante up that you have to do to sit at a table. I would encourage you to do is to do down. So I'm from a gambling town, pardon all these references to the poker game, but that's truly where we are. So what do I mean by invest in yourself? Whatever the minimum is, push past that. So becoming a CPCU was personal for me. I remember when I was in the call center environment, and I heard it spoke of often and highly. And I had a one-on-one with my manager at the time, and I said, what are these letters? What is this thing that you speak of? And so they explained to me what it was. And they explained to me that roughly 2% of us in the industry hold the designation. I was new in my role, and I said, that's me. I want to do that. I want to be a 2%er, right? So he said, this is going to take discipline. There's a reason everyone doesn't do this. And I said, I have to bet on me. So I invested in that. And that has been transformational in my career. So the final letter, S, is, again, your social network. You know, there's a saying, and I can't give credit to who the original sayer of the statement is, but, you know, your network is your net worth. Connect with someone. Don't be afraid to raise your hand and be known for, let people know what you want to do. You know, oftentimes there's certain opportunities that come up, whether it be within the society chapter and the organizations that I'm connected to, and we're desperately looking for, how do I pour into the next generation? Who else are we going to have to hand this baton to? So I speak to those of us who are here in an advisory capacity, the more tenured, seasoned ones in the room. And I encourage you, you know, that we need to really capitalize on these opportunities and pour into who's going to be coming in to fill our seats very quickly. And for those of you who are waiting for us to retire, I encourage you that now is the time to, again, develop those critical relationships. It doesn't even have to be really formal. I know that that I came out of, we had the option to request to shadow someone for a day. I don't know what you do in that department, but it looks like a lot of fun. And I want to just walk your shoes for a day. Do you mind? Can I listen in on a phone call? Can I look at what's going on? Can I kind of use that opportunity to decide where I want to do a deeper dive and where I see myself when I'm putting together my short-term, my long-term plan? And don't be afraid to pivot, because oftentimes you'll go down a path and you'll discover, well, not really what I thought I signed up for. I remember being in claims. I went into it perhaps a little misguided. I came out of the agency environment, and in my mind, the claims reps were the capes like Tony, right? They're the heroes. And I thought it was going to be like publisher sweepstakes. I was going to show up with a check. They were going to give me a hug, applause. Everyone was going to be glad that I was there. I was going to be the hero. So anyone who's worked claims, that's really not how it typically turns out. I'm not saying there are heroes amongst the claims, so you're absolutely invaluable. But what I'm saying is that I got into a space. Now, before I decided to move on, and this is also my encouragement to you, make sure that your reason for moving on is really that you're moving on to grow. You know, in an environment like this, lateral really doesn't exist. Lateral, kind of sometimes on the time and what you put into it. So before I walked away from the claims desk, I completed my AIC. I wanted to make sure that I learned the ins and outs of what it was, just to make sure that I didn't burn a bridge, and if I ever decided to come back, I'd made the most of the time while I was there. What I learned in claims, and that was my personal preference, was at the time of a loss, you can't change the policy that's been written. So the very best that I was able to do was to help people make peace with the decision they made long before they met me. So for me personally, a position more on the front lines. So I'm in the agency broker space because I wanted to have that first line conversation. I wanted to do that thorough risk analysis and explain to my clients, and again in the commercial space, I understand that you own a business, parties out there that are going to require that you carry coverage. But I want to speak to you about what it means to be an employer, a business owner, an entrepreneur, a startup, wherever you are in your space. You need to walk away from this conversation saying that regardless of the decision you make, that we had a conversation and you are well informed. Because should there be a loss, I don't want to be the agent that someone else later says, she never told me that. So as you're walking away from this conference, tons of information, tons of food for thought. Again, in this environment, how you separate yourself from the pack, how you push past some of the drag and the resistance that you will experience. So let me be clear, you will experience. If you are a minority demographic, whether it be virtue, age, experience, education, color, sexual orientation, there are going to be moments where you're going to encounter resistance. But this resistance really kind of just builds your stamina. And if your why is strong enough, and with mentorship, investing in yourself, and developing a network socially, you will push past that resistance, get out of the stratosphere, and your career will launch. You will take off, you will be successful. So again, welcome to all of you who are, again, committed to being here, committed to your personal development. I encourage each of you, again, do a deeper dive, be compassionate as you look around, and recognize that some of your peers may be starting from a different position in the race. And that's okay, as long as we all finish. So that's my message to you. That's my encouragement to you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.